But all right, so here we're saying for number 37, the end of an action is the intended outcome of the action and not a mere byproduct of the action. So we're saying like whatever is the end of the action is whatever we intended to happen rather than like just this mere byproduct, right? So if I throw a baseball, the end of the action is catching the baseball, not like if I like threw it through a window, like that's just a mere byproduct, right? And the ends value, which is the end of the action, right? So we're saying the end value, so catching that baseball is the only reason for that action. So catching the baseball is the only reason that you would throw the baseball. So while it is true that not every ends value will justify any means, so not every ends value, so not everything that like is our intended outcome, so catching that baseball will not justify just any means. That makes sense, right? Like sometimes like, oh, the value of catching that baseball is not worth it in every situation of throwing the baseball, right? And even perhaps that there is no end, so there's no end action or end value whose value will justify every single means. So there's nothing that we can do where that end action would justify every single thing. It is clear that nothing will justify a means except an ends value. So our conclusion is going to be this last sentence, that nothing will justify a means. So nothing will justify doing something except that end value, right? And what is our end value? What did we say is synonymous with that? Taylor?
The intended outcome.
Yeah, the end of the action or the intended outcome. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess I was like trying to understand what the conclusion was even saying.
No, these philosophy questions are hard. And so A says the value of some ends may justify any means. Well, that's not what we're saying, right? We're not saying like the value of some ends of actions may justify anything. We actually say the opposite in our argument. So it's not A.
So let me ask you a question. See, and this sometimes maybe I just trick myself. I X'd it out because I saw any means, any.
Yeah, that's a really strong word, and we don't say anything that strong in our conclusion.
Okay, so that's why I said no to A. All right.
B says one can always, okay, this is really strong. Do we say one can always justify a given action by appeal to the value of its intended outcome?
And I said no.
We're not saying that we can always justify it. Right. We're just saying that nothing will justify it except its end value.
Right.
So it's not B. C says one can justify an action only by appeal to the value of its intended outcome.
And then see, there maybe it's me in my head. I got it. Only, all these strong words.
Yes, it is strong, but is it as strong as our conclusion that says it is clear that nothing? So it's equally strong. And then D says only the value of the byproduct can justify. No, we don't care about the byproduct.
But I chose E.
So only the value of throwing the baseball through the window can justify throwing the baseball. Like, no.
Yeah.
And then E says nothing can justify the intended outcome of an action except the value of that action's actual outcome.
Now that's what I chose.
So which one do you like then, C or E?
Who?
Which one do you like better, C or E?
I took E only, but then again, see, there's I think I overthink stuff, but I chose on that one E. That was me. But I probably overthink stuff. And then my other thought was, I thought you said something that it shouldn't, it shouldn't be the exact. I chose E.
What do you think it is, Taylor?
Well, I remember it being C, because we're talking about the intended outcome and how that will be justified, right? In order.
So one can justify an action. So C is saying one can justify an action only by appeal to the value of the intended outcome, where D is saying nothing can justify the intended outcome. So we're switching this here. We're saying the intended outcome, except for the value of it. Our conclusion, we're talking about, we're trying to justify the value of an action, not justify the action based on the value, which is why E is wrong.
Okay.
This is a really tough one.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why
I knew I got it wrong. I was like, but